Okay, hello everyone. It's Sabina and today we're going to do some practice on AWS services. Now you see AWS Management Console on your screen, and we have some recently visited services that I've recently used. And you may also check out other services either via this drop-down menu or this drop-down menu. Now let's first start with creating an IAM user, and I'll give it a programmatic access. And by the way, I've signed in as a root user, but it's not really recommended. It's better if you create a user for yourself and give it an administrator access and use it for your further work. But I've done it to show you the full picture. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is the groups, and I've added a policy named administrator access, and I've added that user to this group in order to have an administrator access. Now let's create a new user. I'll name it as Tom and hit the programmatic access. Yeah, about this step, I don't want Tom to have an administrator access. Therefore, I'll create a new group. I'll name it as 3 service because I'll give access to 3 services. First one is S3. Next one is EC2. And the last one is RDS. Yes. Now let's create group. Done. And I've also added. Now, next step is optional. You may add it, you may not. I don't want it. Now we'll preview. Everything seems fine. And I'll create the user. Now for this step, we should download the CSV file in order to have an access whenever we need. Okay, but I'll probably, for now, copy it from the console. Okay, now let's use this access. For access key ID, I'll copy this and paste it here. For the access key, I'll copy this and paste as well. Yeah, region may stay. This one as well. And done. Now I can close this. Now let's take a look at another AWS service, which is S3, stands for Simple Storage Service. As it is pretty obvious, it is used for storage. Now let's create a bucket. I'll leave it as Tom bucket. You'll see why I keep using this name. And I don't want to touch the region, it's fine. And I don't want to block the public access. You'll see why as well. I acknowledge that. The other options are not very crucial. We have some advanced settings as well. Now let's create a bucket. Yeah, it is done. Now let's upload some files, but not through console, but through CLI. How that sounds. For this, I've already created 2 files. One of them is Tom. You now know why. And the other one is a PDF file. Now we'll add these 2 files recursively to our newly created bucket. Let's first ls to see our bucket. Yeah, it is here. Now let's add these files to our S3 bucket. For this, I'm going to use copy, folder name, and the bucket name. And of course, the option recursive to add them both at the same time. Yeah, done. Let's check it here as well. Yay, we have it. Now let's access it through browser. That is the reason why I didn't block the public access. But it denies the access. Although our bucket is public, the files inside of it are still not public. For this, we have to make them public by clicking Actions, Make Public, and make it public. Done. Now let's try the accessing. Ta-da! Done. Now let's create a new bucket, but not through console, but through CLI. Let's see how it is done. For this, I'm going to use s3 but mb as command. I'll name it as new bucket. Very creative. And I'll add the region. It's better if you use the region that is close to you in order to minimize the latency. Yeah, it is created. Now let's add some files as well here, but I'm just gonna add the same files. I don't want to go further. And just change the bucket name. Yay, done. Let's check it on the console as well. Yay, we have the new bucket. And the files as well. You can make them public. And done. So we have covered S3 more or less. Now let's move to EC2, which stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. And we'll create a server here. Let's do it. As you can see, we have 0 instances running currently. Let's launch an instance. We have a bunch of options here. You can choose any of it, but of course I'll go for free tier. I'll choose Ubuntu. Here we have several instance types available, but of course I'll go for the free tier. We have some configuration details. You can increase the number of instances. You can request spot instances where you can suggest your option on the instance. Of course, we won't do that. But we have some more options here. We have advanced details as well. Let's move. You can add volume, new volume. You can change the volume type. You can increase size. I don't need any more volume. I won't add it. So about the tags, let's add one tag. Name. and I'll name the instance as EC2 server. Next, on the security group, I'll add, we already have SSH by default. I'll add 2 more rules. One of them will be HTTP, and another one, it will be 8080. And I'll change the group name to EC2 security group, EC2 security group. I'll change the description as well. Let's review. It is open to the world. That's fine. Everything seems fine. Let's launch an instance. Of course, before that, I should create a new key pair where I'll use it to SSH to the server through CLI. Let's name the key EC2 key pair. Let's download it. Okay. Now it's time to launch the instance. Okay, seems like launching. Okay, let's see if it is running. It is on the pending state. Yeah, it is running. Now let's connect it through CLI. But before that, we have to change the permission mode of this key pair file to 400. You can also see that here while connecting to the server on the console. And you can see the steps here, open an SSH client. Here is the change mode. You have to change it in order to ensure that your key is not publicly viewable. Now let's do it. But before that, I have to copy this key pair to my .ssh folder. Let's write the name first, EC2 key pair. EC2 key pair. I copied. Now let's change the permission mode. Yes, done. Now let's just copy the SSH command and paste it here. You may not even need to copy the key pair file to SSH folder. You can check it out for yourself. I had to do it, otherwise I won't be able to connect. Okay, I'm on the server. Now what we are going to do, we'll add a web server on our Ubuntu server, and we'll create an HTML file, and we'll try to open it through a browser. Let's first get the latest update on the server. Okay, let's install the Apache server on our Ubuntu server. Apt, let's make it sudo apt install Apache 2. Done. Now let's ls to our HTML folder to see what we have. We have index.html. Let's open the index file first to see if it opens. What was my public IP? Yay, it works. Now let's create another HTML file under this folder. Vim HTML new.html. Let's write some HTML code. Okay, that's enough, I guess. Now let's open it through browser. What was the name? New.html. Yay! Hi, fellows. And that is all for EC2. Now we're going to discuss the last AWS service of today's video, which is RDS. Stands for Relational Database Service. Let's get into that. Yeah, this is what the console looks like. Let's create a database. Yeah, we have two types of creation methods. First one is standard create, where you will do your configurations by yourself. The other one suggests you the recommended best practice configuration. So we'll go for the standard create. We have 6 types of engine options. I'll go for Postgres. You can manage the version as well here. Of course, I'll go for the free tier. And for the settings, I'll change the identifier as Postgres DB. I won't touch the master username. I'll give some stupid password from 1 to 8. And because it is free tier, the only instance class that is available for us is the last one. About the storage, you can of course change if you want. And I'll disable the storage auto scaling because it will provide you dynamic scaling support. I don't need that. About the connectivity, I will block the public access because it is database. And I'll create a new security group. I'll name it as Postgres security group. I won't prefer any availability zone. This is the database port for Postgres. And we have some more options as well here. Let's give the database name. What can we give? Let's name it Tom. Start with Tom, end with Tom. TomDB. I want enable backup. Yeah, you can enable deletion protection, which means it protects the database in case of any unintended deletion process. Yeah, now let's create the database. It's not like server, it may take a longer time for database to create. I'll get back to you when it's ready. Got back. It's ready. We have endpoint. The status is available, so we're ready to go. Now we're going to connect to our database from our EC2 server. Therefore, I have to install PostgreSQL client to my Ubuntu server. Let's do it. Okay, done. Now let's connect to our database. -u. The username was Postgres. I didn't change it if you remember. For the host, I'll copy the endpoint and paste it right over here. But it will wait because, as you remember, I blocked the public access to database. And to connect to our database, I have to add the security group of my Ubuntu server to the inbound rule of Postgres database. Let's stop this. It will wait. And let's add Ubuntu's security group to the inbound rule of our database. Let's even give it a name. Postgres DB. It's G as well. And also, as you can see, although the Postgres is a database, but the EC2 dashboard is open. Although it's database, it runs on the server, and that is the reason why it opens the dashboard. And now, on the inbound rules, we have only itself, PostgreSQL, and I'll edit it. I'll change the type to PostgreSQL, and I'll add the security group of my server, EC2 security group, and I'll just save the rules. Now let's try to connect again. Now it asks for the password, our stupid password from 1 to 8. Ta-da! We're on the database, Postgres. Now let's see our databases. We had this on by default, and we have TomDB that we have created. Let's connect to our TomDB. Yes. Now let's create a table and name it as students classic with 2 columns. Let's populate it. Mike. Okay, and do one DML and we'll complete the video. I'll update the ID of Mike. Okay, let's select some students. And that is the end of the video. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next videos.